Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Red for Anfield Index. It's Sunday, the 8th of. It feels a little bit weird, doesn't it? Because we should have played yesterday and we should be talking about Merseyside derby, whatever happened, didn't happen, etc. So there is a little bit of a weird feeling, even though the football is going on all around us. But there's plenty of LFC stories to talk about. There's plenty of rumours doing the rounds, so we will get stuck into them for you, ladies and gents. I'm your normal host, Dave Davis, coming to you from cold Edinburgh, to be honest. One of those where you just rub your hands. And I'm not really a hot drinker, but, you know, if you have a brew, it would be absolutely perfect. But let's be honest, no one gives a shit about that. What they care about is these are the headlines this morning, ladies and gents. And there's only really one place to start, in all honesty, and that is the Mo Salah story. And it's important we call it that way because it is a sort of story. It is a singular source. So this came out, kind of, you forget the 10:30, the old school embargo stuff, don't you? That comes out about 10:30, and when it used to hit the headlines back in the day and how that felt. But what's the story? Who's it by? It's by John Richardson. It's in the Daily Mirror, and it says there, as you can see on your screen, or if you can't for audio listeners, Mo Salah is on the brink of signing a new 2-year contract with Liverpool to end all doubts about his Anfield future. The compromise being reached between FSG and the 32-year-old Egyptian king, with Rami doing his business there, saying that actually he was looking for a 3-year contract, but they've managed to compromise on 2 years. Now, let's be deadly clear on a few things. We all badly want this to be true. We are all desperate for this to be true. We all pray and hope that John Richardson has got the scoop, if you will, on this, and others are going to follow. That is what we're hoping for. And I've seen a few post at the same time as well, saying, "Oh, he had the scoop on last time he got his renewal," and I've seen that on a few different links, a few different sites. They desperately want that to be true. Really do. That's the good side. Here's a bit of reality. We've done some digging around at Anfield Index, asking the normal sources, people we can connected to the club. No one's got anything on it. So if he's right, fair play to John Richardson, but he is standing well and truly alone on this. That is important to say. At the same time, a few others have flagged that Liverpool were looking at Steven Gerrard ahead of Jurgen Klopp. Do you remember he had that story back in the day as a bit of an issue there potentially? So there are a few question marks. It is important to say on that, even though we are desperately hoping John Richardson is correct. We'll have to see, but it's no doubt a question that Arne Slot will get asked in his Girona press conference, and it's no doubt the standard answer we know is coming. But it is the one that's dominating. Let's hope there's something in it. However, taking the heart out of it, using the head, objectively struggling with this one a bit as well. The other kind of, I suppose you could call it corroboration on that. Paul Merson mentioned it, didn't he, on a Soccer Saturday yesterday about Mo Salah and what he'd heard. So people jumped on that as almost, I suppose you call it corroboration a little bit. But what did Paul Merson say? He said, "We're only hearing it on the grapevine, but we're hearing 2 years with a year option to Mo Salah." So that's a bit different to the 2 years that way as well. That's a long time. I'd give him 300 to 400 grand a week now, of course. I would today because he's doing the business. I'm his biggest fan. I think he's world class. I'll say he gets in every team in the world. Couple of things on this as well. Number one, Paul Merson is not Mo Salah's biggest fan, and you will have your own opinions on Paul Merson. It doesn't mean me to sort of fuel anything or discuss anything there at all. However, here's the important thing to note, because I think people have backed that up as almost corroboration. That's the same thing. John Richardson is a known sort of reporter for a couple of places. United and Arsenal have been the two clubs he's really focused on. And there is connections between, nothing sordid, but John Richardson and Paul Merson that way. Just to be clear, I am desperate for this to be true. I would love it if it gets announced. But just to repeat again, we have Doug trying to, ask everyone. And unfortunately, everything we've got back via Anfield Index, there's nothing in this. So I'm, again, really want it to be true. However, without wanting to piss on your cornflakes on a Sunday morning, there's nothing we've really got in these Salah stories. So we'll see if anything comes to fruition. Other things that are dominating the headlines, Ian Doyle's written about it in The Echo. There's a few people talking about it. We even mentioned it on Daily Red, and me and Jack, when we did big decisions yesterday. This postponement, number of reasons, actually, why it probably is beneficial Liverpool are getting a rest. There is now this gap, isn't there? Let's be completely honest, between the fixture against Newcastle, the Wednesday evening, till Girona on Tuesday evening, late Tuesday, innit? 5:45 kickoff. Don't be caught out by that, people, at all, in case you're thinking I'll tune in late. So, yeah, there is a bit of an advantage there. And also, we'll have David Lynch tomorrow on Media Matters. He recorded something quite shortly after the cancellation. So let's just get his thoughts on sort of an advantages around these fixture changes.
And also, I think another reason as well that this is a positive for Liverpool is they are kind of depleted at the moment, aren't they? I mean, you think of some of the players they are missing. Ibrahima Konate, he would have been massive if it had been played in this weather for heading balls away. Kostas Tsimikas, Diogo Jota, Conor Bradley, Alisson Becker, Federico Chiesa, none of them would have been in the squad today. And, you would hope that they would all be back. And another one who we know would have been missing today through suspension as well is Alexis McAllister. Now, of course, his suspension now moves onto the Fulham game, which, of course, is a tough game. Fulham are flying at the moment. Really, really difficult opposition. But it is a home game, a game where you'd expect Liverpool to kind of dominate. And so I'd rather, I think, him serve the suspension in a home game that you're more expected to win than an away game, particularly if it would have turned into a lottery with the weather like this. So I don't think that's a bad draw for Liverpool. And another one as well, another reason and a positive for Liverpool is I do think they look slightly leggy at Newcastle. Again,
the two most common problems.
Okay, that probably cut it just at the right time for me there, in all honesty. So, yeah, I agree. And we'll have Media Matters tomorrow as ever. But I completely agree there with what David Lynch is saying. Almost doing it in reverse order. We did look leggy. That is important to say against Newcastle. And I know they had the extra day's rest, so people will look at that. But the games have come thick and fast, and it comes on the back of that week, didn't it? Almost rewind to going Real Madrid, Manchester City, Newcastle, and what would have been the derby. So it is, I still stand by this, a good postponement. And you'd look at when it might get moved to, and there is a good few options. We talked about these yesterday on Daily Red. A lot of them seem to be pretty good. Now, the Premier League are going to try and absolutely shaft us and give us the worst on this possible, aren't you? So you never sort of count your chickens on that. But on this side, it is an advantage. And I think he's right. You'd rather have Alexis McAllister missing Fulham than missing Everton. If you pick that, you've got to be completely honest, that would be your decision. Feel free to throw in your sort of comments, what you think about that postponement. And I get you'll have been missing that way as well, the Liverpool game. But if we just put it objectively, I do think it is a good cancellation. That's important to say. You all have your own thoughts. Other stuff coming up today. Christ, I mean, the January transfer window is about 3 weeks away, isn't it? It opens very shortly, and this will have some of you going, FSJ, the rage machine that will do. You'll have your own thoughts about what the teams are doing. Who knows? But just wanted to call a few stories out, Liverpool related, importantly, that are coming up today. So this player, I don't know if this is a manifestation, I really don't, but there's a few suggesting Joao Pedro there. Liverpool are sounding out Brighton about his future. And there's been a lot of talk recently. There it is, journalist, probably pronouncing this wrong, Francois Plateau has linked it, and they're weighing up even in the January transfer window. Do I believe that? Yeah, no, I don't personally. However, would it surprise me if he's on Liverpool's radar? Absolutely not one single cent. And if you look at Joao Pedro for it, of his age 23 is the perfect profile. In his 8 games this season, 4 goals and 3 assists. There really is a lot to like about this kid. Even just call outs. And I know me and Barts may well have a look at him for transfer market metrics, which will be coming in January, but high for touches in the penalty area. Those are good signs. Strong in the air. Would probably on the surface, you'd think Joao Pedro more suitable to Liverpool's system than Darwin Núñez. You'll have your Jota debates. That's a different thing. So there's a lot to like there. At the same time, even things like his injury history, only really had one last season, hasn't he? With the hamstring, but pretty decent injury record, if you want to call it that. The only downside I'm thinking initially, I mean, I don't believe January. You may think different. I'm not telling you what to think at all. However, what price would Brighton ask for? 30 million quid they paid for him in the summer. They're going to ask probably for double and more, you'd think, realistically, of course, that way. So who knows? But yeah, if you linking it with January, hard to see, but definitely I think one that Liverpool will be keeping an eye on. Yeah, as Red Armchair says there, I agree. Does have a bit of class about him. Link-up play, which I think is key in this system. Very good. And I don't want to use this in the right way or the wrong way, sorry, because I know people have flagged it. People have said, Firmino elements, I think is important to say, because I'm never going to compare anyone to Bobby directly, but we'll see there. Viewers, Helio Matters says there, calling it out, yeah, we just John Richardson, and a few are mentioning as well. I can see in the chat about Ben Jacobs has given a report as well, saying it's not that close and they're still talking. Just in case you missed us late and you're coming in late to this, ladies and gents, as we said, for that Mo Salah, the headline story there, all our info, and we're desperate to be wrong on this, please, at Anfield Index, is that it might not be the case, but we will have to see. Other transfer talk, I just want to sort of draw your attention to. Don't know if anyone saw this. Fair play to Anfield Watch. They had this. Julio Soler, the young Argentinian left-back, plays for Lanús, plays at the Olympics now, or played at the Olympics. Sorry, this has been completely honestly, never seen the kid play. So absolutely lying if I said I know the kid's style from my observations or anything like that. However, there's a couple of things we want to mention. We did talk about this, as people have said before, on the transfer show, me and Trev, during the summer, that we had interest. We didn't have this that Anfield Watch said, so, fair shout to them, that the deal collapsed actually last summer, but the interest remains. And Alex Capel's reports in this for Anfield Watch that they were pushing, but it was disagreement, as it says there, over the agent fees. It sounds like maybe the agent spoiled the move there. Who knows? But the question is, I suppose, ultimately, is there still interest? Is it still being watched? And we did it again, asked about this like we did last summer, literally last night, and did get a few bits back saying nothing that they know about this imminent move. That haven't got that at all. So if that does come off and it is imminent, I'm going to be honest, we do not have that. But from what we've been told at Anfield Index, from asking around, yeah, there is still interest in this player. Again, I'm not going to pretend for one single second that I've seen him play, be it in the Olympics, Lanús, Argentina, anything like that at all. So if you look at the basics you can get, got quite a few games in the league for someone so young. Again, FBF limited, and I know me and Barts will be running, but some quite strong defensive numbers there as well. If you look for his interceptions at blocks, so he seems pretty decent on the basics from what we can see. But again, I am not going to pretend for one single second I have watched Julio Soler. But we've heard Kirkes recently, we've talked about. We've heard Nori recently as well. Maybe Soler is one to keep on the radar. So we'll see what happens there. A weird one at the moment, isn't it? Because when we're not playing, you talk about rivals a bit more, and there's some excellent things that happen on a Saturday. Manchester United losing at home to Nottingham Forest. That was brilliant. And even the sort of extra bit that we got this morning, Dan Ashworth is leaving Manchester United. Do you remember that guy they tried to get all summer, was on garden leave, paid a fortune to Newcastle? Yeah. Big Jim Ratcliffe has sacked him. Now, they're saying it's mutual. No one parts mutual after all that, after 5 months. Let's be completely honest in that regard. So, yeah, Dan Ashworth is now leaving Manchester United. You just wonder, with all the Ineos nonsense and everything, could we see them moody Norwich scarves being wiggled around soon? That would just be perfect. So self-sabotage, they are the masters down the East Lancs Road. So that was delightful to see. And City, 2-2 away at Crystal Palace. Beating Crystal Palace away is not for everyone. It's important to say that. We shouldn't make ultimate judgments, I suppose, in that regard. I'd struggle to not rule them out the title race. They're 9 points behind us. We've got a game in hand, and just the way they're playing at the moment as well. So, yeah, that is something to consider. Yeah, Bart saying there, United losing doesn't affect us mid-table team. Shout out to Bart. Get doing your homework for transfer market metrics when it comes up as well. As Red Armchair says there, Amarin will probably do the same. I do think they've got a good manager, but oh, what a situation he has walked into. It's like trying to turn a cruise liner around with a steering wheel that's 5 centimeters long, and it really is. They've got a lot of work to do there, and long may that clown show continue. However, today, a couple of the more direct title rivals. So that's probably the one we'll be keeping an eye on in a few hours' time. Fulham versus Arsenal. Not an easy game for Arsenal and their corner-taking routines by any means. Fulham have got a good record. As David Lynch said there, they are going great guns at the moment. I'm not too hopeful for this for a couple of reasons. Fulham, if you look at them, they're not a streaky side. They usually sort of win, draw. Just have a look at the form if you don't believe me. Plus, Arsenal played on Wednesday. Fulham played on Thursday. So Fulham are going Thursday, Sunday. They've had a day's less rest in that regard. So I'm hopeful. I would love it, but I'm not putting anything in that at all. So if it is, I think it's a bonus. However, here's what you're going to hear, because I do think Arsenal will win. You are going to hear the noisiest supporters with nothing to really crow about going, look at the gap. We've got it down to 4 points already. Blah, blah, blah. We know the reality of this. We know how this works. And I get what they'll try and do. You've just got to ignore them completely. Trust me, they're going to try and do that. So anyone who gets sucked into those, Arsenal are closing, they played the extra game. Just honestly, don't worry about it. And yes, Helios says that. It's just great watching what's happening down the East Lancs Road. And this one as well, coming up even later, that'll be worth a watch. Spurs, Chelsea, the cretins derby, isn't it really? Because Ange under pressure, Maresca trying to avoid being called title contenders. So there is a fair bit of rival watch going on today. I think that's interesting to see what happens. But do you consider Chelsea title challengers? Be interesting to see what your thoughts are there, because people, when they look at that table, they're ahead of Arsenal. Yes, it is goal difference and all that. I get it, etc. But yeah, if you consider Arsenal, do you consider Chelsea? People talked to me earlier, I saw about Chelsea squad. Well, Chelsea got about 86,000 players on the bench. So does that go into your thinking as well? Who knows on that? But yeah, a couple of our close. It's important to say that our closest rivals in the table both play today. So we will see what happens. But we are here to talk about Liverpool ultimately, aren't we? And Girona and Fulham, these are the two next games. I mean, you look at that schedule now. Girona, Tuesday. Fulham, Saturday. With Everton postponed, I just get a feeling you're going to see the strongest lineup in these two. I really do, because there's a week after Newcastle, pretty much 6 days. The derby won't have sapped the legs. I think, honestly, this cancellation will be brilliant. And if you win that, As you say, you're 6 for 6, you're 18. Let's be honest, you're absolutely guaranteed to not be in the Champions League playoffs, i.e. not have 2 extra games. And also it frees up, as we talked about yesterday, a few spaces there, doesn't it, at the same time to replay the Everton fixture. Then, and I'll probably think they're hoping, get that one and move on, get the players off. And if you look at Girona as well, I mean, they lost last night to Real Madrid. They're a mixed bag in La Liga. That's last year's table anyway. Sorry, I brought the wrong one up there. Never mind. But the one thing I looked at when I was looking at the various tables and bits is, if you look at Girona, lost last night to Real Madrid 3-0. Lost a few players. Savinho, the one that's gone to City. Dovbyk, I think it's pronounced. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. The Ukrainian who went to Roma. This feels like a good time to be playing this. And I think we'll go strong. And I think we'll win that. And then rest a few, all ready for that Fulham game. And importantly, when you say this, if it goes well, I don't want to be derogatory and Liverpool play every game to win, but it'd be interesting to know your thoughts. How much does that Carabao now matter to you? No right or wrong, that is a question of opinion. So, yeah, important ones just to call out there. For the Girona and Fulham thoughts, I do think we'll be seeing full strength sides in these. And we'll finish on, as we always do, anything from Anfield Index, some pods for you to listen, watch, whatever your preferred poison is. So, couple, Dave did, I know, one there on a Slot, another podcast around his impossible mission to defy the odds. So well worth a listen, well worth a download there. And then me and Jack yesterday, because he didn't have the watch along, so we did an episode of Big Decisions. So we did talk about a lot of things. We talked about the Salah contract. We talked about Nunes. We talked about the January window and how we're both desperate to see a signing made, like many others there as well. There's also, Dave did a special one in return, Derby walk-alongs, and I know that was Trev and Cam, I think, who did the AIP the other night. So there's plenty for you to listen to, plenty for you to download to cover you on the weekend. And then tomorrow, as we go into it, Arne Slot will have his press conference. Which players he alongside, we don't know, ahead of Girona. We'll also have Media Matters, and then Girona on Tuesday. Even with this Derby postponement, the games, everything Liverpool related, just comes thick and fast at the same time. I think Helio sums it up well there. It's been a tough period for Liverpool with all these games. It has been important matches every 3 days. Real Madrid, City, into all of it. It's just, and I like that phrase, Helio, a bit of luck and getting a breath that way as well. And in fact, if you're Alexis McAllister, you're getting a 2-week breath, aren't you, as well? He might be off to Lanzarote, 4-star, all-inclusive. Who knows what Alexis will be up to. But there we are, ladies and gents. On Sunday, the 8th of December, I do hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. That was another Daily Red by Anfield Index.